Welcome to Maharashtra Votes, our special edition of Keep Talking. Today, journalist Smruti Koppikar, who's been reporting on India's politics as well as its unique urban journey for decades, will help us assess the state of our cities. One of the most urbanized states in the country, Maharashtra's capital Mumbai is the archetypal city. Scarce land is its most coveted asset. As a private construction boom coincides with a massive spend on public infrastructure, Mumbai's landscape, character and history are being remade. And it is the model the rest of Maharashtra follows only too eagerly. We talk about how voters should assess political parties and their plans through the lens of the city. Maharashtra goes to vote is in 2024. Is a sustainable city on the agenda at all, you think?
Maharashtra's cities are not sustainable, period. If elections were meant to give us sustainable cities, we would have had them long back. I'm looking at the manifestos that have come out. There's a manifesto that's saying we promise you happy cities.
Yeah, that's the MVA.
That's right. That's
the Mahavikas Aghadi manifesto.
Mahavikas Aghadi manifesto. What are happy cities? Can we who live here, can we decide for ourselves what are happy cities? I'm not sure we want the government to give us, any government of any party to give us quote unquote happy cities. Give us cities where life is easy, give us sustainable cities, give us cities that we can negotiate with ease, give us cities that have a good public transport, good health, good housing, affordable housing. We'll find our happiness.
But if you look at what the MVA is saying, when it says happy cities, green cities, clean cities, pollution free, an urban commission, climate change impact to be assessed, plans for a sustainability cell, and human development index ranking as opposed to a GDP ranking for Maharashtra and a number one ranking. So if you look at these, they have spelled some things out. Is this just noise, or is there something here that you see as an understanding that we have not looked at development and urbanization in the way it really needs to be?
Manifesto wise, this is probably among the better ones we've had in the past decade and a half, and we've been looking at manifestos for nearly 30 years. You know. So there are ideas, there are promises made in this manifesto that were not even spoken of or dealt with. For example, sustainability. There's some reference to sustainability, right? But the urgency that's needed on just the issue of sustainability, for example, where is that urgency? To give you an example, you know that Mumbai has had a climate action plan for nearly 2.5 years, right? And unfortunately, it got identified very closely with the Uddhav Thackeray government, and the government that came after that was not too hot on that, and until very recently and all of that, right? So yes, Mumbai Climate Action Plan became a template for a number of other cities to develop their climate action plans and so on and so forth. But what does this climate action plan do? Which other plan is it talking to? So it's a very nice, comprehensive plan in itself. It promises a lot of things. It sets out the pathways, the goals, the target areas. Who is responsible for taking this forward? It is not even a statutory plan. So
it doesn't have to be
enforced. It doesn't have to be enforced. You know, we cannot hold a government accountable for not doing things that are in the plan. That's one. Number two, how do we look at Mumbai's development plan 2034 in the context of climate action plan? Are we then going to have a heat action plan and a flood mitigation plan separately? How are all these plans going to talk to one another? So, that old malaise of too many agencies trying to do too many things is evident once again on this issue. And these are not issues that we can sit on or wait for any government to actually wake up. The sea level is rising and we are going farther and farther into the sea, constructing Reclaiming, I have a slight issue with the word reclaiming. Reclaiming suggests that, I know reclamation,
Okay.
reclamation is the word to be in Bombay, and Bombay was made from reclamation and all of that. But it sort of suggests that, you know, yes, that the land was already there and we are taking it back from the sea. Whereas every scientific study, the kind of studies that IPCC has put out, the kind of studies that Professor Adam Sobel has done, they all seem to suggest the other way around, you know, that the sea is going to reclaim what was its and what we took from it. But that's a small part, you know, that got a number of headlines last year, that parts of South Mumbai going under the sea and all of that. That's only a part of the story. The story really is, even if that takes another 30, 50 years, and many of us may not even be around then, but air pollution is going to happen next month, right? Floods. And
I mean, look, born and brought up in Mumbai, I think it's the same in your case.
Brought up in
Mumbai. So we have a long history and experience of living in this city, lifelong, in my case. This kind of smoggy, poor air quality, I thought was a NCR, Delhi, Gurgaon, Noida problem. How has it become a Mumbai problem? And I believe after Diwali, Dhule was the most affected in terms of air pollution after Diwali. So what's going on? How did we become, I mean, we are the city by the sea.
Yeah. So the sea served us very well all these years, and I think it allowed us to claim superiority over Delhi every time Delhi fogged up and, you know, flights wouldn't land and hey, Mumbai didn't have the problem, we are a cut above the rest. What's really happened are two very major trends, you know, just to sort of encapsulate it. One is the sheer plethora of construction permits that have been issued since the pandemic, because the industry sort of was subdued then. There's this whole rush of construction of private projects and public infrastructure projects, and construction dust is amongst the top factors. And there is another one that has kind of gone below radar, which is the study that Adam Sobel and others have done, and many other studies, that global warming has led to a change in the drift, pace, pattern of the sea breeze. So if earlier the sea breeze kind of just came into Mumbai and swept it clean, that's not happening as efficiently as it used to. I'm of course, you know, Maggie noodlifying this whole thing, but it's far more complex than this. But that's not happening anymore. So the environment that we took for granted is, or the sea that we took for granted is not on our side really anymore, you know. We've abused it. That's Mumbai. But then I'm thinking, we know what problems we've had in Mumbai. Right?
And we've gone and replicated that in all other cities in Maharashtra, isn't it?
Exactly.
And actually even the rest of the country, because I mean, I'm quoting you back to you in your Hindustan Times piece. You talked about how Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu are the top two urbanized states.
We spoke a little while back about the manifesto. I'll come to your point. We spoke about the manifesto. A part of that manifesto says the slum redevelopment will now be taken to other cities in Maharashtra. It sent a chill down my spine when I read it. If there's one thing that's gone wrong in Mumbai over the last 20 years,
is that SRA
it is
format.
The entire SRA format
of redevelopment.
And very quickly, what's wrong with it is it's created unequal housing, it's created inhospitable housing, it has led to a large amount of pelf and profit and greed, and it's created a city or sections of city that have no open spaces, that fire brigade engines cannot get into, that have such poor lighting and air circulation that people are actually falling ill in these buildings. Why would you want to take a broken, failed model of slum redevelopment to other cities. Right now, what's actually, if to put it in a nutshell, Anuradha, what's happened with the slum redevelopment is, if your plot of land is, say, 100 square meters, and all of it was slums, most of it was slums, the SRA model allows you, the builder or whoever takes the project on, to squeeze all the slum dwellers into 20, 25, 30% of the land. Where is the equality? We're talking of a land-starved city. You're squeezing people into lesser and lesser portion, smaller and smaller portion of that land, while the larger portion is going in for free sale. There is just no equity. And the High Court, the Bombay High Court, is now on record as having said that we are creating slum skyscrapers. So instead of slums this, we are having slums this,
vertical slums,
Why would you want to take this model to the rest of the state or the rest of the country? What is really called for is a very clear-eyed evaluation, examination of this model by an independent commission, which does not have the influence of the real estate sector, which is not sort of nudged by politicians and so on and so forth. I'm not even seeing that come. It's very natural, right? 20 years, 25 years of a project, you would want to look back and look at what are the gaps, what are the lacunae. Why aren't we doing it with the slum redevelopment?
But I think that's why, Maharashtra votes 2024, that's where the whole thing comes back to, which is that the citizens don't engage beyond a point or don't engage on the issues that really matter like this. And you have the political class and the builders funding each other and fueling each other's profits, isn't it?
Yeah, that apart, what's going down the slope in that model is the urban life. And this concerns, because like I've written and you pointed that out, besides Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra is the most urbanized state. And we are still falling back on 2011 census for urban figures and all of that, because we don't have newer ones.
Have latest data.
But it seems that we are far more urbanized than we were in 2010-11 when that census was enumerated. But even if we weren't the most urbanized state, are we going to look at what kind of urbanization is happening in which parts of Maharashtra? The Mumbai model really has not even served Mumbai. It has been extended to the Mumbai Metropolitan Region. Thane, for example, one of the most rapidly urbanizing part of, and what has Thane lost in the process? It's lost its lakes, it has lost its mangroves, it has lost its open spaces. What kind of an urbanization are we talking about? How sustainable is this urbanization? Are we just creating those compartment kind of gravy train in which we continue to see cities in the 1960s, 70s framework of engines of growth? Somewhere the urbanization model is stuck in that time, and cities as engines of growth. I don't think we can limit ourselves to that kind of a framework anymore. I am searching, and since we are speaking in the context of the election, I'm actually searching for people.
On the agenda.
Yes, I'm searching for people, for candidates, for leaders who will listen to some of these issues, look at some of these topics seriously, engage beyond a few lines in the manifesto or whatever, I mean, it's great that the MVA has promised a sustainability commission. What is the commission going to do? It'll speak to people like us, it'll speak to whole lots of people, put out a great report. how is it going to create a sustainable Mumbai Metropolitan Region?
In the BJP manifesto, it says by 2034, a total of 1,000-kilometer metro network will be developed in cities such as Mumbai, Pune, Chhatrapati Sambhajinagar, Nagpur, Nasik, revolutionizing public transportation. And it also wants to say that it will offer or facilitate the seamless use of suburban rail transport, metro, monorail, urban bus service, smart card scheme to be implemented. Yeah, it just seems like things we've heard about and we know, but yeah, this
So
is
much
what
of
the
a
BJP manifesto said with regard to urban development.
So much of a word salad.
Yeah,
Basically,
yeah.
right? This is the other thing that I am noticing and that people have spoken about, written about in the past few years. Urbanization and urban development is increasingly being reduced to projects. So we don't have
2024, we began this year with three very big showpiece projects, right, of the incumbent government, both at the center and in Maharashtra.
Yes. Is there everything wrong with that? No. Do we need projects? Yes, of course. But to reduce urban development to a handful of projects that are launched with great fanfare, that are then built with thousands of crores of public money, but infra projects that primarily don't serve the public or the large mass of people in a city. And then are inaugurated and sort of dedicated to the people of that city with even greater fanfare, with live shows and stuff. There's so much a spectacle around this. There is an entire politics of spectacle that is happening in the country, in our city, and Mumbai, MMR, Maharashtra cities are a great stage for that kind of politics of spectacle that's happening. Did we need a metro? Yes, Mumbai needs a metro network. Pune, yes, there are parts of Pune, the existing lines, I'm told, connect parts of cities that were not connected earlier. So also for Mumbai, especially the underground. But to believe that life in our cities, whether it is Pune or Nagpur or Sambhajinagar, or Mumbai, will improve because of one metro project in the city and one, like a regional, freeway project, I think is a delusion. We delude ourselves, or even if we don't delude ourselves, people who promise us this kind of project-led development believe that we can be deluded with that.
So what's the alternative? Given that this model is not working and yet the political class has put all its money behind this model, what is the alternative that citizens need to start consciously asking for?
Number of things. We need projects for sure. But projects of what kind and for whom? Can we pause and ask this question? Can we have a BST bus service or a Pune, in Pune, the PCMC bus service or the Thane Municipal Corporation bus service of a standard that you want to bring into the metro? The BST in Mumbai, even today, in its very pared down, it's been in some sort of a destructive mode for a while.
It's been decimated.
Even today, it's being decimated slowly. Even then, it still takes about 3.5-4 million passengers a day. The metro is a fraction of that. The people who take the bus don't take the metro. So it's not a question of, oh, we're giving you the metro, so let's not, talk about the bus, so let's not talk about the trains. I think there is this what we don't have is mobility plans in our cities. What we need to get away from, really, if you ask me, if I take a sort of long view on it, is to move away from singular project-led urban development, in whichever city it may be, to a kind of transport planning and more correctly, mobility planning. Because transport planning, railways are planning their own thing, the buses are doing their own thing, the metro is doing its own thing, pavements, where are the pavements, right? So, whatever, the roads are doing their own thing. I'm not divided into 5 different things. I need to, in order to use that. Will somebody plan for you and me and for our mobility, irrespective of the modes of transport we need to take? And except for the small percentage of people who own and drive their cars, which depending on figures could be from 12% to 20% to 22%. So even if we say 22 to 25%, a larger number, much larger number of Mumbaikars are dependent, and Thanekars and Punekars are dependent on public transport. And you know very well, those of us who use public transport never use one mode. You're walking, or you're taking some intermediate, then you're taking a long distance train or a metro or a bus, then you're taking a cab, you're walking. All of it needs to be seamless. I shouldn't have to worry about my last mile connectivity.
Which I believe is the problem with the latest metro.
It is the problem, and nothing typifies this more than the Bandra Kurla complex. For me and for anyone who's lived in this city for a long time, what is today the BKC was marshland. Okay, it was reclaimed or landfilled, turned into this really swanky upmarket thing by the MMRDA. And so MMRDA planned for that. BMC was not a part of it. And so much so that today it's one of the most priciest pieces of real estate in this city, both commercially and residentially. It's among the more upmarket destinations to be. How do people get there if you don't drive? It's a nightmare to reach that place from Bandra station or from Kurla station. How did we get to 2024 and land in such a mess where BKC is concerned, where it remains so disconnected? And the only answer, very painful, but the only answer is the people who are in charge are not bothered.
I don't think it affects
They are
them
not
at all.
bothered because how you struggle to reach BKC from Bandra station is really your headache. And you are willing to do it. So why should I provide you for it, right?
So talking about development, talking about BKC specifically, if you just move a little bit, you get to Dharavi, right? And that's the big, to quote something that was written in the piece on Dharavi, on question of cities, was the mother of all redevelopment projects. Uddhav Thackeray of the Shiv Sena UBT has claimed that if they come to power, they will just cancel this. What do you make of this? Because on one hand you do want a solution to Dharavi, and on the other hand you don't want the solution which is the SRA model solution for such a large space, and this rehabilitation for which so much land has already been made available to the builder, the Adani Group, in conjunction with the Maharashtra government, right? They are running the project together. Salt pan lands for people who won't come back to Dharavi. This is going to be a huge, I mean, it's going to have a massive impact on Mumbai once this starts off.
Massive. Massive would be an understatement. There's a lot to unpack in this. This is probably, half hour long kind of a thing. But Dharavi is not an issue of 2024. Dharavi redevelopment is not an issue of 2024. In 1985, when Rajiv Gandhi came here for the Congress centenary, is when he was taken around there, and that's when the whole the Prime Minister's grant project started, and Mr. Gautam Chatterjee was at it for years, and so many others were. Does Dharavi need to be redeveloped? Yeah, sure. Long overdue. The questions are, why were the old models of redevelopment, which is people of Dharavi deciding for themselves and doing it themselves, why were all of those models junked? Number two, in redeveloping it in the current SRA kind of a model context,
which it
seems to be, because there is no transparency or clarity about the Adani model or the plans or what they intend to do. But assuming that it is on the current SRA model, about 70% of that land is going to be available for free sale and commercial development, right? You're looking at almost 600 acres, 70% of that. Who's going to be benefiting from all of this? Let's not say the city of Mumbai, because it's not the city entirely that benefits, it's those who are in control that benefit. How is this going to be used? In the 90s, you would remember there was the plan for the textile mill.
That one-third formula, which the courts actually, the Supreme Court actually struck down in favor of the owners and the mill owners and the real estate developers, and not the city, right?
And the government. The government also played a very smart sleight of hand. But there was a plan at that point that said that, that proposed a plaza, open spaces, gardens, if that land could be made contiguous and 1/3 could actually come to the city, right? From Dharavi, what is coming to the city?
We don't know.
What is coming to people in Dharavi? That's the most important part. What's the city without its people, right? Essentially. What of that Dharavi land is coming to people in Dharavi? Because the last I know, they are agitating to get even as much space as they have currently, right? So they are not getting the space that they've used for 30, 40, 50 years, so many of them. What is the city of Mumbai going to get? There is no clarity on it at all. And I am thinking that if with the textile mill surplus land, Mumbai, those in power could get away without giving anything to the city, with Dharavi it's going to be even more difficult. And finally, the question is, if this piece in the center of Mumbai is going to be redeveloped, how are we contextualizing it in the era of climate change? Where are we allowing the green areas? Where are we allowing the meaty? What is Dharavi without the meaty, right? What are the plans for the meaty? What are the plans for the Mahim Nature Park? And activists will tell you that they already fear that the nature park is going to get subsumed in the whole redevelopment plan. So the first thing I would want is a lot more transparency on the Dharavi Redevelopment Project. We don't know enough. When there isn't enough information, you can't even evaluate it properly. You can't
Perhaps that's why
it properly.
The information is not there, isn't it?
But the surveys are happening. I believe the surveys are happening from people who tell me that on the ground. The surveys are happening, and people keep pointing out to the surveyors that, we may have this 400 square feet, but we also have a 200 square feet on top. And they're saying, no, we're not going to look at that. We're only going to look at this. But this commercial activity and this family occupy this 400 plus that 200. You can't just ignore or disregard that 200 because it doesn't fit into your Excel sheet. You know, so again, I come back to this, that there is a sense of urbanizing and constructing and projectifying a city without really considering its people.
Yeah.
What is a city without its people? So if you're going to redevelop Dharavi and it is not keeping the interests of people in Dharavi as your topmost priority, then what is the redevelopment for? It's primarily for your bottom line,
So you think
right?
it should be cancelled the way Uddhav Thackeray, Shiv Sena claim they will?
It should be. It can be redesigned for sure from what little I'm aware of. But like I said, that we don't know enough about the plan.
Make those,
But
draw those
do I
conclusions.
want to take Uddhav Thackeray at his word on this? My mind goes back to 1995 when this party and his father had very famously hollered all over the state, if we come to power, we will throw Enron into the Arabian Sea. Do you remember that? Virtually every public meeting that was held, and Enron was such a major issue.
And the problem is not there. The problem is yours. You have a long memory. You're not supposed to remember these things.
We are not supposed to remember, right? So this party and his father said, we will throw Enron into the Arabian Sea. What we saw was they came to power. Enron was nowhere near the Arabian Sea. It was renegotiated and it came right back to Guhagar, where it now lies as a white elephant. So do I want to take Mr. Thackeray at his word and believe that he will cancel the Dharavi Redevelopment Project?
Your
Not
experience
really.
doesn't make you
Not
feel
really,
confident.
not really. Because what will he bring in its place? If it is not Adani, who will he give it to? It's clear by now, and successive governments have told us, I don't buy that, Anuradha, not for a minute, but successive governments have told us that the governments don't have the capacity to redevelop Dharavi, right? People in Dharavi are saying, allow us a chance. There are models that we can do. Governments are not willing to give that, right? What is the option? The option is a private developer.
And how many private developers with that kind of appetite and that kind of capital
but
to
sure,
invest?
you can get 5 private developers and a section of Dharavi into 5. I mean, there are sectors
ways
in
to do
Dharavi
things,
anyway, and there are ways to doing it rather than allowing one person to run with it all. Because then the profits are massive to this one entity. So my question is, if Mr. Thackeray wants to cancel this particular project, welcome, but what do you have in its place?
Maharashtra's municipal corporations haven't had elections across board, including Mumbai's, for close to 3 years. Yeah, I mean, we're 3 years overdue. The elections are 3 years overdue in many cases. How much has that affected the way urbanization and development in the context of our cities in Maharashtra played out, you think, in the past 5 years? Because it's all centralized control now, because all the administrators report directly to the chief minister.
Yes.
And not elected corporators.
I would want to say these elections make a big difference. But the reality is that they don't make a huge difference to the way cities are planned, structured and built. For 2 reasons. One that you mentioned, where the administrative wing of that urban local body reports directly to the chief minister's office or the mantralaya, and to that extent the autonomy and the agency of the municipal corporation tends to be limited.
But there is a case for corporators who are in touch with the grassroots and what people
I'm coming
need.
to that. There's another trend that has happened in the past few years, and this is the SPVization of urban governance. So we have a number of special purpose vehicles being set up, right? Right from data collection to planning to governance to evaluation to project management, everything, right? What are these special purpose vehicles? Mostly they are private entities, sometimes international organizations. I have nothing against them because that's where the expertise is. But can we think from a citizen's perspective? If governance, urban planning is going to be outsourced to special purpose vehicles or to private entities or directly to the Mantralaya, whose door should I knock when the garbage doesn't get cleared? I can't take it to a think tank's office in BKC, right? We need to say that, this is not done. I need a person that connects me to this labyrinthine system of urban governance. And our elected corporators are that connection for most of us. You would remember this throughout COVID in Mumbai. It is the corporators who were
into action.
who literally were on the ground. They were the ones organizing everything from doodh to sabzi to fruits to
so there is a
COVID
role, but not a
medication.
direct. You're saying it's okay. I get the point. Smruti, we've spoken, largely in apolitical terms, but now set aside this, the urbanization model.
But there's one more. There's one more theme that seems apolitical, which is not, which is the ecological framework of urbanization. And I do think we need to pay attention to that, not just because climate change, climate crisis, climate emergency, we use all these words and then suddenly lot of people kind of tune out.
But we are experiencing it.
Right? Don't forget that in April last year, 17 people died of a heat wave because they were made to sit in the open for that award ceremony for 4 hours in the sun. And so heat waves are a part of our lives, floods part of our lives, air pollution part of our lives. Are we going to construct as if these didn't matter? Are we going to plan projects as if none of this matters? In between 2016 and 21, so just in those 5 or 6 years, Mumbai lost more than 2,000 hectares of green cover, of tree cover. If trees are dead, we are dead. The other side, and there is another side, I'm clear which side I am on. The other side would say, oh, but we're going to have a central park and we're going to have, that very large tree cover. And the average per capita tree cover in Mumbai is going to be much higher than it is. I'm not bothered about the average. The average is great for for the international documents and whatever, right? You are not going to catch a bus and then board a train and then get off at Mahalakshmi station to access that central park. You want parks in your neighborhood. You want trees in the neighborhood. You want water courses in your neighborhood. Where are the water bodies around us? Do we even know that? Where are the wells? We've covered them all. Where are the streams? Where are the rivers? I mean, it took that flood in Mumbai for people to wake up and ask, oh, there are rivers in Mumbai? So, what I'm seeing is a cognitive dissonance. Okay, there is a realization of the climate crisis and the fact that life cannot go on the way it did, or business cannot be. It cannot be business as usual, but we sort of go around the revolving door and we are back at urban plans and construction and permits and projects, and then suddenly all of that is forgotten and we behave as if none of that mattered. I don't find any other term for it other than a very strange cognitive dissonance among people who are making these plans, building the cities, doing the urban governance. You can't on the one hand acknowledge climate action and on the other behave as if it didn't matter, right? And that is really the crux on the basis of which our urbanization will either be sustainable or not be.
Smriti, we'll keep talking. I don't know if who will keep talking about these issues, but we must and we will.
So can I leave you with an aspiration I have?
Sure.
I won't call it a dream, it's an aspiration. Sure. And I've been covering elections since 91. Okay? I've been reading manifestos and listening to election speeches. It's taken us 30 years and more to get to a point where manifestos are at least talking urban issues and urban governance. It's my aspiration that in the next decade, we will have elections in which there will be candidates who will be tested on their commitments to sustainability, to city building, to environmental issues, to issues of inclusivity. Can our cities be more equal? Can we build them to be more equal? They don't suddenly become more equal. Can we build them to be more equal? It's my aspiration that at some point in the future,
that's where
maybe I would have retired by then, but I do want to see elections in which these issues do begin to matter. I hope we get there.
We'll keep talking till they do, Smriti. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you.